Hi everyone, and welcome to another 20-minute power play. First week of every month, we do these sessions, just 20 minutes, where we look at what we're currently looking at with our clients in our premium group. So I'm just going to go through a few things that I'm personally very interested in, what I think is big news, and also some things that I'm seeing in the charts as well. So just providing you some insight there. If you want to come on board with us, this is the type of insight that you will receive. And then I'll show you our brand new offering, which is our monthly premium newsletter, which gives you buy and sell signals, as well as monthly market insights, as well as on-chain data. And we do cover a narrative topic, which we can cover in the end. Now, I'll quickly just run through Win360. You can see that the top crypto by market cap, Bitcoin, the most well-known crypto as well, has been going relatively sideways, a little bit flat over 7 days. So it's down 1.04%. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. It allows a lot of other cryptocurrencies to have some oxygen, start to run a little bit. And Bitcoin, where it is at the moment, it's not necessarily a bad thing that it is consolidating. It's just under its all-time high. So it's really contending with that $60,000 level. So we'll have a look at the charts in a sec where that is at. But currently, the cryptos that are really moving are those layer ones or layer two scaling solutions. You've probably heard of them. They're called Solana, AVAX, and there are a couple more which we can get into, like DOT and Cosmos, but they're really finding a place right now with NFTs doing so well. NFTs are being minted and built on top of, let's say, the Solanas and Cosmoses of the world, whereas they used to be built on Ethereum. However, the fees on Ethereum are making it inhibiting more growth and that progression that you really want to see of new capital coming into that ecosystem. So Ethereum, it's no surprise that it is going sideways here. Now, there is still a lot of upside to Ethereum, especially when Ethereum 2.0 comes. But right now, a lot of these, again, these scaling solutions, these really fast, cheap blockchains like Solana, DOT, and all that are really starting to move. So Solana has been doing crazy good. So it's up 8% over 7 days, but it's up a lot more over the last few months. Now, something we'll talk about in a sec. SHIBU is down 18% now, but it was absolutely flying. I believe it was over 1,000% up over this last phase of the market. So that's really interesting. We were just talking about AVAX or Avalanche before, up 13% for the week. So look, some are moving and some are not. This is a really interesting phase of the market before we really take that next big leap, which we think will happen in November and December. But right now, we're just contending with that $60,000 level in Bitcoin. There are a lot of factors that go into whether the entire market moves or just Bitcoin moves, or we're going down. And they're all indicators that we have to look for in the charts and on-chain situation as well. If we just pop on over to the Fear and Greed Index, which we always like to have a look at in these sessions. Right now, we're sitting at 73, which is great. We're sort of in that middle band section. I'd love to see us pull back a little bit more. Right now, what essentially is happening is the market is flushing out a lot of leverage. So I won't go too deep into that, but there are a lot of traders that really want to gamble in these markets. They have a position and they lever up that position. They can make their position 10, 20, 50, 100x, just something ridiculous. And it puts a lot of pressure on the buy and sell side of the market and creates a lot of volatility either way. Now, a lot of those traders are going to have to be flushed for the overall natural organic growth of the market. So buyers like you and me, or investors who are just buying the spot price, just looking to accumulate an investment position, that was really driving the market over this phase from 30,000 up back to 67,000. So that's what really drove that move. And then when we get to areas where people see an obvious solution, so they're saying, oh, 67,000, of course we're going to 70 or 80 now, so I'm going to lever up my position and I'm going to make a ton of money really, really fast. Never works like that, and the market will turn on those sort of people and liquidate their positions and make a ton of money on the other side. So you just never lever yourself up. It is a recipe for disaster. If you have a look at last month, we're at 59, so slowly creeping up this scale. If we have a look down here, maybe we'll go over the year, see where we're at. We're in a nice consolidation band along this area here. Really good spot to be, especially just under all-time highs. You'd be a little bit concerned if we were at 67,000, and these metrics we're reading up at the extreme side of things, let's say in the 90s and the 100s. I'd be paying particular attention to that. So let's pop on over to Bitcoin and see what's happening here. So overall, on the daily, I'll just zoom out a bit there. This was our previous high at about 65,000, give or take a few points. And now we're over here. We basically completely recovered the drop from all the way down here. It was 125% move over these last few months, just a period of sustained recovery and power into the release of the first Bitcoin futures ETF in the US, which was very, very big news. So a lot of people wanted to front run that. Brought in a lot of capital, a lot of eyeballs to the sector, which is great. Now we're just seeing the market work itself out. Whether it was a sell the news type of event or this is an organic move where we're going to see much higher prices. I think we are going to see higher prices just simply because of the supply and demand dynamic on this market. But if we're looking here, we tried to make that new break. We did make a new all-time high at 67,000, but since then we've come back down to contend with the area to really solidify the support here. If we just kept running up, we went to 70, 80 really quick, you'd get very, very worried that we were going to drop like a rock afterwards as profit taking starts to happen. But this is really good to see. We've had a pullback of 15 to 16% down into these areas here into the high 50,000s, but it was swiftly bought up. And you can see a pattern emerging here, this almost downward channel, which does very much look like a bull flag to me. We broke up out of that. You can see we're bouncing on top of it, finding support. And we had a big break up, almost created another all-time high. And since we've had another dump down, which was bought up spectacularly, that does coincide with some news we had out of the US, with the Federal Reserve saying they will start to taper, which means they're stopping their unprecedented bond buying program that is a lot more advanced. We'll not get into that. However, it's all linked and it all creates buy pressure or sell pressure on the market. And right now, a tapering situation would create a bit of a sell pressure on traditional markets and also crypto. So you just got to pay attention to that. All of what happens here depends on what Bitcoin does in terms of will it come back down for another test of 60,000 or will it break up higher to 65,000? Currently, the momentum looks really good on the RSI for this to go a bit higher. All the building blocks are there, but we're really in this range here of that 65,000 to 60,000. And I want to see a decisive break either side. Currently, it's not clear, but my gut feel is we are moving higher. I think 63,000 is a pivotal point if we just maintain this bar here, which is a point of high volume. So a lot of buys and sells in this area. Generally, that creates a bit of a sticking point for price to fall through. If it does find support here and goes higher, very, very bullish. If it breaks this, not so bullish. It's probably going to consolidate a bit lower. So those are things you can definitely look at. Now, I want to pivot over to SHIBU and just discuss this. Now, so many people want to get in on a good thing once it's already happened. Now, if we look at SHIBU, this pump down here, 1,100% give or take. The time to buy SHIBU is down here in this consolidation band where it's finding a bottom. The time to buy is not now up in these areas after an epic run. Of course, this could go higher, but all the signs and indications, especially when you look at SHIBU's tokenomics in terms of, that almost infinite supply, incredibly high token circulation. And also now you have a smaller concentration of holders holding incredible wealth. The temptation for them now is that they probably want to realize some of those gains. And I'll just move on over to this news article here, where we saw someone spend $8,000 last year in August and bought SHIBU at that point. That $8,000 is now worth $5.7 billion. You can imagine how good, that's probably the single greatest trade of all time. Maybe you look at something like the Big Short or George Soros shorting the British pound, but $8,000 into $5.7 billion, that is insane. Now, the thing you have to worry about here is this person now owns $5.7 billion worth of SHIBU. What are they going to do? And we're already seeing that this person has split this amount of SHIBU into two separate wallets. And the idea is that they're probably going to sell the other half. Now, with something like a SHIBU, you have to pay attention on these meme tokens or sentiment-driven tokens. You have to pay attention to liquidity. Can the market absorb a dump of $2 billion worth or $5 billion worth of SHIBU tokens on the market? I do not think so. I think this would absolutely there'd be a great buy the dip opportunity if you were bullish on SHIBU in the long term. But you have to worry when there is a core group of holders with a heavy concentration of these tokens. And that will all go into your research of when you do this cryptocurrencies. We provide this help and checklist in the course, which you can find out this information very quickly. But this is a bit of a downer on this move from SHIBU. I mean, it's fantastic for SHIBU holders, but you'll probably find a lot of people that are thinking they're going to hold this for much higher prices when you really have to take into account the market cap and concentration of the holders here, because this might not turn out too pretty too quickly. Of course, this could consolidate a bit lower and then bounce higher, absolutely. And we are in the back end of a bull market, so it would not surprise me to see these tokens go much, much higher. But just generally, we see a lot of these holders take profits on these big pumps because it just makes sense. Okay, let's keep moving. So a lot of what's happening at the moment in terms of inflation, and inflation is absolutely everywhere. Why we're seeing Bitcoin really start to make a move and really hold its position is because inflation. There's a massive mental shift from the current financial system in terms of trust. People have lost trust in what's happening. They're seeing trillions and trillions of dollars being just pushed into the economy, expanding the M2 monetary supply. And you can see that on this chart about where we've gone in terms of the money and liquidity in the overall market. And you can see M2 has just exploded over these last couple of years. There's some crazy stats saying that 40% of all US dollars have been printed in the last 2 years. That is crazy. It's crazy scary. Now, whether we see hyperinflation, I don't think we see hyperinflation in the US. However, outside of the US, that is becoming a real issue because we are printing like you wouldn't believe. And cryptocurrencies do provide that escape hatch, especially when you look at something like Bitcoin, which is more firmly fermented in sound money, Austrian economics, and that deflationary mechanism of 21 million Bitcoins only. So it does provide that alternative, which will hold its value. Well, we've seen it hold its value over its lifespan. Whether it does in the future, we don't know. But it is a pretty good bet between that gold and silver, where we go from here. But it doesn't look too flash for the fiat monetary system. Now, fiat is any currency that has been issued by a government, and it doesn't look too flash. Now, just quickly, again, the Federal Reserve is winding back their stimulus and their bond buying, which essentially, when we say the market or the stock market is overinflated and manipulated, how we mean that is the Federal Reserve in the United States has legitimately just been buying bonds, equities, and putting it on their own balance sheets to hold the stock market at a certain level, making sure that it doesn't drop too far. Now, the US economy especially is so highly levered in equities. If it does go down too far, we see pension funds, retirements, a lot of that wealth concentration of the middle class evaporate overnight. So no politician wants to actually have that happen on their watch. If it starts to go down, they tap the Fed on the shoulder and say, you need to inject stimulus now to keep this game going. And they have been doing that, but we're running into a bit of a wall now with this high inflation. So the Fed suddenly is starting to think, gee, maybe printing, upwards of $20 trillion over the last couple of years wasn't such a great idea. Maybe we're contributing to this inflation. So they are in between an absolute rock and a hard place. They have run out of ammunition. They really can't raise interest rates too much to fight that inflation. And they really, really can't pump more money into the system in the long term. So I think the path of least resistance is going to be that they're going to try and inflate the debt away and a lot of this inflation away. But in the short term, they're going to try and raise rates just for the optics, just to make it seem like they're doing something. And we've seen the Bank of Canada and the RBA in Australia also look to raise rates. But in Australia, can they really raise rates too much to fight this inflation? Because if they do, the housing bubble bursts. And we know most Australians have a lot of wealth tied up in the housing bubble, which is almost an entire creation of poor monetary policy and a lot of this money printing that we see. So that is a high-level overview. I cover a lot of this with our advanced clients about what's going on in the US markets and traditional finance and how it affects the cryptocurrency sector, because crypto right now is still very much that risk on asset class, where if traditional finance gets unstable, crypto will get shaken and it will move. However, Bitcoin is starting to come of age. It's starting to find itself as the macro asset, which potentially is that hedge against inflation. So we are at an incredible inflection point. All right, moving on to my next point, and this is very Australian based and I love to see it. One of the big banks, Commonwealth Bank, is going to allow its 6.5 million customers to buy Bitcoin on the Commbank app. This is seismic, huge news, huge push for legitimization of Bitcoin and the asset class as a whole. So currently, Bitcoin and Ethereum will be the top runners, but it's just to engage that younger generation, which are engaging in this asset class anyway. They want to get a foothold in it. Now, if banks do not try and make money off this or leverage this asset class, they are going to get left behind, because now we're seeing DeFi, so decentralized finance, start to take over, where you can use your Bitcoin, Ethereum, or crypto assets as collateral and start to take loans. You can start to lend them out. You can do everything a bank does without the bank in the middle taking a heavy fee and putting you through lengthy KYC. So they need to get in this and start to cement themselves with the mainstream consumer. And that's what they're trying to do. I think it's great for crypto in general. This is fantastic. It's going to put a lot of the naysayers in a corner and become very, very quiet. Now, what you do have to recognize here is, though, buying it through Commbank, you're not actually holding your private keys. Now, in our course, we do go through how to secure your private keys. So you're actually holding your crypto yourself securely. In this instance, it sounds like Commbank are going to go through a US exchange called Gemini. They'll hold that in their cold storage. I do like Gemini. I really trust their custody. However, there's still that element where they're a centralized authority and they're holding your Bitcoin, your Ethereum in a holding. If they get hacked, if they somehow go down, you lose your access to that crypto for a short time or maybe even forever. So it's just something to pay attention to. But this is huge. This potentially opens the door if you own Bitcoin or Ethereum, where you could potentially use it as collateral for a home loan in the near future. That is where I think it's going. Okay, guys, I won't take up too much of your time, but I will just show you the page for our monthly cryptocurrency newsletter. Is absolutely going off. We've had tremendous feedback. So go to this website here. I'll also put it in the link below. It's $49 to sign up, but the value in this newsletter is absolutely insane. I'll give you a snapshot as well. You can just read this if you feel that you want to learn a bit more about it and the people that have used it to help them in their cryptocurrency goals. You can also get in touch with our team if you want to join our educational course. It is absolutely second to none. And here's the snapshot. So this is October and beyond. This is our latest release. When you look at it in a Word document, it came to about 56 pages. That's how much value we're giving you. So we've got the introduction from our CEO, Joe Shu, and then we also cover a narrative every month. So this one is the one catalyst to propel Bitcoin over 100,000 USD per coin, and that is the ETF launch. We go through what the ETF launch will look like, how it compared to something similar in gold. We look at all the charts, all the graphs, all the data, and just put it into a nice, simple, concise explanation of what it is and what it will do. We also have an on-chain section as well, market overview for Bitcoin, and quite importantly, and a lot of people love this section down here, it is the buy and sell section. So we'll give you charts, we'll give you the exact buy and sell positions that you need to be paying attention to, and when you might need to get out of the market as well. So we've looked at all the technicals and made these decisions for you. Of course, there are no guarantees, but we've been having some insane success. So some of our clients made about 70% on their position sizings when they went into some of these cryptos. And Solana was one. We also had DOT and a few others. And what I love about our newsletter too is we do a bit of the homework for you. So a lot of what we get asked is, is this coin any good? Is that coin any good? And of course, we can give you a high-level overview, but we really like showing you how to do this process yourself, so you become a better investor and you can go away from our course and our newsletter knowing what to do, in isolation to make better investment decisions. We actually have 2 projects a month where we go fully in depth and do the fundamental analysis for you and summarize those projects completely. So this month we did Terra, and I think it was Shiba Inu. So we look at both those coins, really rip it apart, see what's going on, and see if they're a good investment, for yourself, or in the future if you're just looking at, what does the cryptos do? How do they work? How do they compare to Ethereum, Bitcoin, and all that? So it is just tremendous value. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this 20-minute power play. I know I have. If there's anything you want to talk about, please post it below in the comments and we can also have a chat. But as always, an absolute pleasure. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.